Lyra had always dreamed of understanding humans with her own eyes. From the windows of her palace on the Astraline homeworld, she spent her childhood watching distant stars and wondering how creatures on those faraway planets lived. Everyone in the royal court warned her that humans were unpredictable, emotional, and far too simple to trust. But Lyra never believed the stories without proof. She wished to see Earth not from old reports written by fearful advisors but from her own heart and her own journey. That desire became stronger as she grew older, until one day she made a decision that even shocked herself. She disguised her identity, took a small shuttle, and left her world without telling anyone except one loyal caretaker. Her cloaking device changed her appearance to look like an ordinary traveler. Her glowing blue markings became dull, her silver eyes turned brown, and her tall form shrank slightly so she wouldn't stand out among humans. She arrived in a quiet town on Earth during the late afternoon. The wind was cold, and the sky looked heavier than she expected. But she stepped forward with excitement. She imagined humans smiling at her, offering her help, or at least speaking kindly. That was her mistake. Reality met her harder than any impact she had trained for. The first group of people she walked past avoided her completely. She tried to greet them with a polite nod, but they hurried away as if she carried something dangerous. A woman bumped into her shoulder and muttered an annoyed word before leaving without even looking back. Lyra stood still, confused. On her homeworld, even strangers showed basic kindness. Here, it felt as if she didn't exist at all. She tried to buy food from a street vendor, but she had no idea how Earth currency worked. She offered him a small crystal coin from her world, hoping maybe humans accepted trade items. Instead, the man shouted that she was wasting his time. She tried to explain through her translator, but it suddenly glitched, producing strange broken words. People around her stared. Some laughed at her strange speech. She felt her heart sink. For the first time, the princess wondered if she truly understood humans at all. The rain began soon after. Heavy drops fell from the sky, cold and sharp, hitting her thin disguise. Her cloak flickered in the dark as its power drained. She hurried into an alleyway behind an old building, leaning against a brick wall with trembling breath. The ground smelled of earth and metal. She wrapped her arms around herself and tried to adjust the translator again. Her fingers shook too much. She felt the cold settle into her bones. Even though Astraline bodies were built to endure harsher climates, something inside her felt heavier than the rain. She wasn't afraid of danger or harm. She was afraid of being alone in a world she thought would be full of warmth. Her cloak flickered once more, showing a flash of her real arm before returning to the disguise. She hid it quickly. She hoped no humans saw her. She hoped no guards from her homeworld arrived either, because if they found her here, lost, hungry, and failing, they would drag her back and tell her she was foolish. She closed her eyes, wishing the rain would slow down enough for her to think. That was when she heard footsteps. Lyra tensed and tried to shrink deeper into the shadows. She didn't know if it was someone angry, someone careless, or someone curious. The footsteps moved closer until a warm light shone over her. She opened her eyes slowly and saw a human man holding a small lantern-like tool that glowed yellow. His expression wasn't harsh or annoyed. He didn't look confused or afraid. He simply looked concerned. His name was Elias, though she didn't know it yet. He worked at a mechanic's workshop nearby, and often passed this alley on his way to check broken machines people dropped off. Tonight, something told him to look deeper into the shadows, and that instinct brought him to her. He knelt down slowly, making sure she didn't feel threatened. His voice was gentle as he asked if she was hurt. Lyra tried to answer, but her translator glitched again. Strange jumbling sounds came from her device, and she covered it with her hand in embarrassment. She expected the man to laugh or back away. Instead, he moved a little closer and offered her his jacket. It was warm, soft, and carried the scent of oil and wood. She stared at it in surprise. No other human had shown her even a small amount of care. This man didn't hesitate for a second. She whispered a soft thank you, though the translator broke half of her words. Elias didn't seem bothered. He gently asked if she had a place to stay or someone waiting for her. She shook her head. He studied her carefully, seeing the fear in her eyes and the way she held her arms tightly. Something inside him told him she wasn't from around here, not in the normal way at least. She looked lost in a way he had never seen before. Elias offered to take her inside his workshop so she could dry off. Lyra hesitated. She didn't know humans well, and she didn't know him, but she felt something she hadn't felt since arriving safety. She nodded slowly. He guided her to a small building with warm lights and many tools hanging on the walls. The air inside was warmer than outside. Machines hummed softly. Wires and metal parts covered the tables, but everything felt strangely comforting. As she stood near the heater, Elias made a simple cup of tea. He didn't ask many questions. He didn't make her explain herself. He simply told her to sit and rest. Lyra watched him carefully. She studied his movements, his calm voice, his patient eyes. He wasn't pretending to be kind. He wasn't doing it for reward or praise. He was simply helping, because he saw someone who needed help. Her heart softened, something she didn't expect to feel on Earth. Elias eventually asked her name. Lyra hesitated again. She couldn't reveal her real name, so she simply said, Lyra, hoping the translator would hold. It did, though it sounded slightly distorted. He smiled anyway, repeating her name gently. She liked the way it sounded from him. She told him her speech device was damaged and that she couldn't speak well without it. He nodded and said he could try helping fix it even though he had never worked on anything like it before. She watched him take the device slowly, asking permission first, and examine it with genuine curiosity. She admired that. He didn't treat her strange object with fear or suspicion. He simply treated it like another puzzle to solve. When she sat quietly, he talked a little to keep her calm. He explained how humans used currency, how shops worked, and why some people acted rude. He apologized on behalf of the people who ignored her. He told her that not all humans were like that. Sometimes, people were too busy, tired, or scared of unfamiliar things. Lyra listened closely. His words were simple, but they were filled with understanding. She had met dozens of humans in the past few hours, and none showed her what he did in just a few minutes. She started feeling her fear melt, not entirely, but enough to breathe freely again. When Elias managed to adjust the translator enough for it to produce clear words, Lyra tried speaking. Her voice came through smoothly for the first time that day. She thanked him again, this time more clearly. He smiled in relief and told her he was glad it helped. Hours passed as they talked. Lyra learned that Elias lived a simple life, fixing machines, helping neighbors, and staying mostly out of trouble. He had no grand mission, no wealth, no fame, yet he had something far more valuable than any title on her world: kindness without expectation. Lyra felt warmth build in her chest. Not from the heater, not from the tea, but from something deeper. She had traveled across stars expecting to learn about human behavior. Instead, she was learning about human hearts. When rain softened outside, Elias asked if she wanted to rest in the workshop for the night. He could fix a small bed of blankets for her. She agreed. Feeling her exhaustion catch up to her, she lay down quietly while Elias continued working on a broken machine nearby, occasionally glancing over to make sure she was okay. As she drifted to sleep, she thought about everything that had happened. The coldness she faced earlier hurt her deeply, but Elias's warmth soothed those wounds. She realized she had judged Earth too quickly based on a handful of moments. Perhaps humans weren't unkind. Perhaps they were simply complicated. And perhaps one human was enough to change her entire journey. Before falling asleep completely, she whispered a thought to herself. She didn't know if the translator picked it up or if Elias heard it, but it didn't matter. One human proved them wrong, and for the first time on Earth, she felt hope. Lyra woke slowly, feeling warmth on her face that she didn't feel the night before. For a moment she didn't know where she was, then she heard the sound of metal tools clinking and machines humming softly. She opened her eyes and saw the small workshop bathed in early morning light. The heater glowed softly in the corner. The smell of warm tea drifted through the air. Elias was already awake, bent over a device on the work table, adjusting something with careful hands. For a brief moment she watched him silently. There was something calming about the way he worked, steady, focused, gentle. On her homeworld, people rushed to impress her, or feared displeasing her. Elias didn't know who she truly was, yet he treated her with more natural kindness than many who called her princess. She sat up slowly, pulling his jacket tighter around her. He heard the movement and turned with a small smile. "You feeling better?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded, her translator delivering her yes clearly. "Thank you. For everything," she said in a quiet voice. He shrugged, as if helping a stranger survive the night was nothing unusual. That surprised her even more. "I made tea," he said, placing a cup on the table. "You should drink something warm after being out in the rain." She took it carefully. Drink, feeling its warmth spread into her hands. As she sipped it, she realized it was simple tea. Nothing fancy like the shimmering drinks she had grown up with. But somehow, it tasted more comforting than anything she remembered. Elias returned to his work while she watched the morning world through a small window. People were walking outside again, some rushing, some talking, some carrying tools or bags. She wondered if any of them noticed her last night. Probably not. Humans had busy lives, always moving, always thinking of something else. But maybe that didn't mean they lacked kindness. Maybe kindness simply needed a moment to awaken. The translator device she brought from her homeworld lay on the table beside Elias. He was still trying to fix the internal wiring. She stood and approached him with soft steps. "You do not need to repair it," she said. "I do not want to trouble you." "It's not trouble," Elias replied without looking up. "Besides, you need it to communicate, right?" "I don't mind helping." He gently moved a wire aside and touched a small glowing crystal with a metal pick. "This thing's built differently than anything I've seen. It's amazing." Lyra hesitated. She couldn't tell him the true complexity of Astraline technology. She simply nodded and explained softly. "It helps me speak better when it works." "Well," he said with a small laugh, "I can at least get it working properly. I think it's close." She liked the way he approached everything with patience instead of frustration. On her world, mechanics snapped at their tools or grew angry when machines didn't behave perfectly. Elias treated every piece with care. As she stood beside him, he suddenly asked, "Where are you from, Lyra?" "You don't have to tell everything. Just something." He said it gently. Not as interrogation. Only curiosity. Lyra looked at him with thoughtful eyes. "Far away," she said softly. "A place very different from here." "That wasn't a lie. I came to learn. To see things with my own eyes." He nodded. "I get that. Sometimes you gotta go places to understand them. Books and stories don't always tell the truth about people." Her chest warmed at those words. He didn't know how close those words touched her reality. Her advisors always told her humans were dangerous, unfeeling creatures. But Elias alone contradicted everything she had been told. They spent the next hour talking. Elias explained Earth customs, how people paid for food, why strangers sometimes acted cold, how humans often feared things they didn't understand. Lyra listened intently. Each word peeled away another layer of confusion in her mind. "Some people act rude because they're tired," he explained as he tightened a bolt. "Some don't trust easily. But that doesn't mean they're bad inside." "So they hide their kindness?" Lyra asked softly. "Not exactly," Elias said, glancing at her with a small smile. "It just takes the right moment, or the right person, to bring it out." Lyra found herself thinking about that sentence long after he said it. While she considered everything, she suddenly noticed something unusual. The cloak device, still weak from last night, gave a faint spark on her wrist. She looked down quickly, hoping Elias didn't see. If her appearance shifted now, he might be frightened. But Elias only noticed the spark and asked if she had some kind of electrical issue. She smiled nervously. "It is a small tool. she said. It is unstable today. Well, maybe I can look at it too, he offered, reaching out. She pulled her hand closer instinctively. No, this one is personal. Her voice was gentle but firm. He respected that immediately and didn't press further. She appreciated that more than he knew. Elias finally made the translator device hum softly. He handed it to her with a hopeful grin. Try it now. I think it should work better. She activated it and spoke. Thank you, Elias. Her voice came out smooth, without distortion. Her eyes brightened. You fixed it, he smiled proudly. Good. You'll need that if you're staying in this town for a bit. Lyra looked away. She didn't know how long she could stay. Her absence from her planet might already be noticed. The royal guards might already be searching for her. But for now, she wanted this peaceful moment to last. Elias prepared some food for her, simple bread and warm soup. She ate carefully, studying the taste and texture. It wasn't like the glowing dishes on her homeworld, but it felt real and comforting in a way she couldn't explain. While she ate, Elias worked on repairing a broken generator brought in by someone earlier. Lyra watched his hands move smoothly. His brow focused but calm. Humans might not have the advanced tools of her world, but their creativity impressed her. He solved problems step by step, patiently, instead of relying on automated machines. Can I ask you something? Elias said suddenly as he adjusted a switch. Yes, Lyra replied. Why were you alone in the rain last night? Did something happen? His voice held concern, not suspicion. She thought for a moment. She couldn't reveal her royal identity or the truth about her planet. But she wanted to share something honest. I came here to learn about humans, she said softly, but the people I first met, they were not kind. Elias's expression softened. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I'm sorry. You are different, she whispered. You did not ignore me. You did not shout or laugh. You helped. He scratched the back of his neck. Well, you looked like you needed help. Anyone should do that. She shook her head. Not everyone did. Elias grew quiet then. The small workshop felt peaceful, filled with soft machine sounds and warm air. Lyra felt something shifting inside her, something gentle, something curious. She wasn't sure what it meant yet. Later in the day, Elias offered to show her the town, so she wouldn't feel lost again. She agreed, wanting to understand humans better. They walked outside together. The sky was brighter, and the rain had stopped. People moved around, with purpose. Some glanced at Lyra, some didn't notice her at all. Elias introduced her to simple things: crosswalks, signs, small shops, and a park with tall trees. She watched families play, children laugh, and couples walk side by side. She learned that humans expressed emotions openly, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly. Are humans always so varied? She asked. Yeah, Elias laughed. We come in all types. That's what makes us, well, human. For the first time since arriving, Lyra smiled without forcing it. At the park, a small child dropped a toy and began to cry. Lyra watched carefully as the mother comforted the child, wiping his tears and giving him a hug. Lyra's eyes softened. Humans care for their young with great affection, she observed. Of course, Elias said. Love is pretty universal, I guess. Love. That word was strong. On her planet, love existed, but was often tangled with duty, politics, and expectations. Seeing it expressed simply and freely moved her deeply. As the day went on, Lyra found herself relaxing, learning the rhythm of human life, understanding small gestures, listening to the natural voices of Earth. She noticed the beauty in the ordinary. Elias explained things patiently, always checking if she understood. She found comfort in his presence, something she hadn't expected from a species she had been warned about. When evening fell, they returned to the workshop. Elias lit a lamp, and the soft glow filled the room. Lyra felt a strange mix of peace and fear. Peace because Elias made her feel safe, fear because she knew her time here might be limited. She sat quietly, watching the lamp flame dance. Elias sat beside her, tired but smiling. "You're really curious about everything, Lyra," he said. "It's nice. Not many people ask questions about small things anymore." "Small things matter," she replied softly. "They tell the truth of a world." "I like that," he said. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt gentle, almost warm. Lyra's cloak flickered again, but she hid it with her sleeve. She hoped it would hold until she could recharge it somehow. She didn't want Elias to see who she really was, not yet. She feared his reaction. She feared losing the fragile bond forming between them. She feared the royal guards finding her and dragging her away. She feared too many things, yet she couldn't bring herself to leave. As the night deepened, Lyra finally whispered, "Elias, thank you for showing me kindness. I will remember this day." He looked at her with genuine warmth. "You don't have to thank me every time. I'm just glad you're okay." She lowered her eyes. "On my world, kindness is not given freely. It is always tied to something." "Well," Elias said with a gentle smile, "then I guess Earth has something good to offer." Lyra felt her heart soften again. Maybe her journey here wasn't a mistake. Maybe humans were more than her advisors feared. Maybe one human could change everything. As she prepared to rest again in the workshop, she did not feel alone. She felt something she never expected to feel on Earth. She felt safe. Tomorrow, she knew, things would change. Her cloaking device was weakening, and her presence might already be detected by her people. But tonight, she allowed herself a rare peace. One human had proved her wrong about his entire species, and she wondered quietly what else he could change in her heart. Lyra did not sleep peacefully that night. Even though the workshop was calm and the heater kept her warm, her dreams were filled with flashes of blue light, search drones, royal guards, and the palace halls she had left behind. She woke several times, her heart racing, afraid that when she opened her eyes, she would find Astraline soldiers surrounding her. But each time she looked around, she saw only the soft glow of the workshop lamps and the quiet figure of Elias asleep on his chair, arms folded, head resting slightly forward. She watched him for a long time, wondering how someone so ordinary by galactic standards could feel more trustworthy than people she had known her entire life. On her planet, trust was rare. Loyalty was tied to status. Friendship was carefully weighed and measured. But Elias had shown her something far simpler: kindness without condition. She didn't know how to handle that. She woke again near dawn to a strange sound, a faint buzzing, almost like a whisper in the air. At first, she thought it was the machines, but it grew louder, sharper. Pressing against her senses, her heart froze. It was a signal only Astralines could detect. The energy signature was unmistakable. Her people had found her. Lyra stood quietly, trying not to disturb Elias. She walked to the door and peeked outside. The sky was still dark, but she saw something like small stars drifting across the clouds, blinking softly. They weren't human aircraft. They were search drones, fast, precise, and programmed to find her exact genetic signature. Her cloak flickered weakly, reacting to the pressure of their scanning beams. It wouldn't hold much longer. She stepped back and closed the door, her hands trembling. She didn't want Elias to get hurt. She didn't want the guards to think he had taken her or manipulated her. She knew how the royal guards thought. They believed humans were dangerous. They believed humans had no honor. If they found Elias with her, they would act before asking questions. She walked toward him slowly and touched his shoulder gently. His eyes opened immediately. He wasn't the type to wake slowly. He reacted fast, like someone who had lived a careful life. "Lyra?" he asked, his voice rough from sleep. She tried to calm her voice, but fear cracked through. "I must go." "Now." He sat up straighter. "Go? Where? Did something happen?" She lowered her eyes. "My people. They found me. Thank you for watching. They found me." "Your people?" He stared at her in confusion. You mean, someone's looking for you? Are you in trouble? Lyra hesitated. She didn't want to lie to him. She couldn't not, after everything he had done. She took a slow breath. Yes. They think humans are dangerous. They might hurt you if they think you kept me. Elias shook his head firmly. No one is hurting me because I helped you. And I'm not letting you run off scared. He stepped closer. Tell me what's going on, Lyra. Her cloak flickered again, and a patch of her real skin, silver-patterned and glowing faintly, appeared on her hand. Elias saw it clearly this time. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He didn't panic. He simply froze in surprise, staring at her in confusion and awe. Lyra, your hand. She looked down. The disguise shimmered like a broken illusion and faded once more. Please do not be afraid, she whispered. He lifted his gaze slowly, his voice soft but steady. Are you not human? Lyra shook her head. The cloak flickered again, letting more glimpses of her true appearance show through. I did not want you to know like this. Elias took one step closer. His eyes held fear. Yes, but not fear of her. Fear for her. You're in danger because you helped me, she tried to say, but her translator shook with static as the drones drew closer. Suddenly, a bright blue flash filled the workshop windows. The drones had locked onto her exact location. Lyra grabbed Elias's hand. You must hide. He shook his head. No, I'm staying with you. Elias, please. I do not want them to hurt you. They won't, he said firmly. I won't let them. Before she could argue, the workshop door burst open with a gust of wind. A group of Astraline royal guards stepped inside, tall, armored, glowing with the energy shields of their suits. Their helmets reflected Lyra's weakening cloak. The moment they saw her, their visors lit up, confirming her identity. One guard stepped forward and shouted in their native tongue, which the translator captured. Princess Lyra, step away from the human. We are here to rescue you. Elias stiffened. Princess? Lyra closed her eyes. There was no more hiding. This is who I am, she whispered. I am heir to the Astraline Empire. The guards aimed their energy weapons at Elias instantly. They believed he had captured their princess. Lyra threw herself between them, her arms spread. No, she shouted. Elias helped me. He gave me shelter. He saved me. The guard leader replied coldly. Princess, humans are primitive. Their hearts are weak. They cannot be trusted. Elias clenched his fists. He didn't understand their language, but he understood their tone. The guard stepped forward. We scanned the humans' building. He kept you here. He restricted you. He protected me, Lyra said sharply. He sheltered me. He treated me with kindness none of you have ever shown a stranger. The guards exchanged confused glances. This wasn't how Lyra usually spoke. She had always been calm, diplomatic, obedient to tradition. Now her voice trembled with emotion. Elias took a deep breath and moved beside her. Even though he knew these armored beings could end him in a second. I didn't do anything wrong, he said quietly. I found her lost in the rain. That's all. A guard responded with a cold hiss that made the lights flicker. Lyra stepped closer to Elias. He is under my protection, she declared. Anyone who harms him will answer to me. The guards froze. No one, absolutely no one, disobeyed a direct command from the princess. Still, the leader tried to reason with her. Princess, you do not realize how dangerous this human could be. They think only of themselves. Lyra's voice hardened. Elias thought of me. The leader hesitated. You are too important to risk. We came to bring you home safely. I will not return if you treat humans as monsters, she said. He helped me when no one else did. Elias watched her in stunned silence. He didn't fully understand her words, but he understood her tone. She was defending him with a fire that shook even the armored soldiers. One guard raised his weapon slightly again, scanning Elias aggressively. That was enough. Elias stepped in front of Lyra. She gasped softly. Elias, it's okay, he whispered. I'm not letting them scare you. The guards' helmets flickered with disbelief. A human, small, unarmored, physically weak next to them, was standing protectively in front of their princess. The leader spoke in a low voice, trying to intimidate him. Human, you stand before the future ruler of the Astra line. You risk your life with this defiance. Elias didn't move. She isn't my prisoner, she's my friend. Lyra felt her heart tremble. That one word friend broke something open in her. The guards stood still, confused by his sincerity. The silence in the workshop felt heavy, almost electric. Lyra touched Elias's arm gently, her eyes soft and glowing with emotion. You should not risk your life for me. He looked at her with steady eyes. You risked yours for me a moment ago. Seems fair. Seems fair. Lyra's chest tightened. She wasn't prepared for this. She wasn't prepared for a human to show loyalty greater than her own guards. The tension finally broke when another guard entered, stepping forward with a scanning device. Princess, he said. His energy signature is stable. No weapons, no threats. He has no harmful intent. The leader hesitated. Lyra took advantage of the pause and said firmly, You see? He did not harm me. He protected me. Elias watched quietly, wishing he could understand every word. He could only sense the shift in energy, less aggressive, more uncertain. The leader lowered his weapon slowly. Princess, if this human truly protected you, then we may have misjudged him. You have, Lyra whispered. Elias saw their weapons dim and relaxed slightly, but he still stood near her just in case. The guards stepped back, giving space, but the leader spoke again, softer now. You must return with us. The council is worried. Your disappearance caused chaos. His voice carried genuine concern through the helmet's modulation. Lyra looked down. She knew this moment would come. She would have to face her world again, her responsibilities, her duties. But before she answered the guards, she turned to look at Elias. He stood silently, watching her with a mixture of hope and fear. She realized something then. She didn't want to leave, not yet. Not without explaining. Not without making sure he understood everything. I will return, Lyra said softly to the guards. But not without speaking with Elias privately. The guards hesitated but respected her authority. They stepped outside, keeping their distance but continuing to scan the area for threats. Lyra turned slowly to Elias. Her cloak flickered completely this time, revealing her full form. Her glowing eyes, silver-patterned skin, and faint royal markings shimmered under the workshop lights. Elias's breath caught. She was beautiful, unearthly, radiant, breathtaking in a way he couldn't describe. But more than beauty, he saw the sorrow in her eyes, the uncertainty, the fear of losing the small world she had found here. I am sorry, she whispered. I did not want you to see me like this. I did not want to frighten you. You didn't, he said softly. You're incredible, Lyra. She felt warmth bloom in her chest at his words. I must go with them. I cannot fight my entire world. I get it, he said quietly. But, are you going to be okay? She nodded slowly. I will be safe. But her voice broke for a moment. I did not expect to care this much about a human. He smiled a little. I didn't expect to meet an alien princess. For the first time since she arrived on Earth, she laughed gently, a sound like soft chimes, yet sadness still lingered beneath it. I do not want this to be the last time I see you, she said. Then don't let it be, he replied simply. Her eyes softened. She stepped closer, placing her hand on his. The contact was warm, gentle, almost electric. I will return when I can. I must show my world that humans are better than they believe. Elias squeezed her hand lightly. I'll be here. She looked into his eyes, memorizing them, storing the moment deep inside her heart. Then she stepped back toward the door, where the guards waited. Before leaving, she whispered one last promise. You proved their fear wrong, Elias, and you proved my hope right. Then she walked out with the guards, leaving him standing in the quiet workshop, watching the door close behind her, uncertain of what the future would bring. But certain of one truth: she would come back. If you want, I can now write part 41400 words. In the same, emotional, simple English, HFY style. Elias stood in the empty workshop long after Lyra and the guards disappeared into the night sky. The glowing blue lights of their ship faded behind the clouds, like distant stars. He felt a strange heaviness in his chest, something he couldn't explain with simple words. She had only been with him for a short time, yet the workshop felt colder without her presence. Her quiet curiosity, her gentle questions, the soft glow in her eyes when she learned something new, those moments stayed with him long after she left. He rubbed his hands together, trying to warm himself even though the heater was running. The room felt bigger now, emptier. He kept replaying the moment she stepped out with the guards, the way her eyes lingered on him as if she didn't want to go. He hoped she was safe. He hoped she wasn't being punished or scolded for coming to Earth. He hoped her people understood she wasn't harmed. But mostly, he hoped she hadn't forgotten him. Days passed quietly. Elias returned to his normal routine, repairing machines, fixing tools, and helping neighbors, but his mind drifted back to her constantly. Sometimes, he caught himself staring at the door, expecting her to walk in with her shy smile. Other times, he touched the spot on the table where her translator device had rested, remembering how carefully she watched him work on it. He missed the way she listened, really listened, with her full attention, but most of all, he worried. He worried that her world was too strict, too controlling, too full of rules. He worried that the guards who tried to take him down might convince her he was a mistake. He worried that her title as a princess came with chains he couldn't see. He didn't speak of her to anyone. Who would believe him anyway? Even if someone did, the story was too precious to share. It belonged to him and Lyra alone, far across the sky, far from Earth. Lyra stood in the grand hall of the Astraline Palace. The ceilings were made of shining crystal, and the walls glowed with gentle blue light. It was her home, her world, her kingdom, but she felt a quiet ache in her heart. Her people welcomed her back with relief, but the council was uneasy. They demanded to know why she had gone to Earth without permission. They demanded to know why she had stayed in the company of a human. They demanded to know why she defended him so fiercely. Lyra answered their questions with calm honesty. But she held part of her heart back because no law or tradition would ever understand the warmth she felt when Elias stood by her. When she returned to her private chambers, she finally allowed herself a long, deep breath. The palace felt too perfect, too polished, too distant from the messy, unpredictable warmth of Earth. She walked toward the window, overlooking the stars, her mind drifting to the small workshop with its warm lamps, its scattered tools, and the human who had given her kindness with no reward expected. She closed her eyes and whispered his name softly. It felt like a secret carried across galaxies. Her personal advisor, an older Astraline named Saren, stepped into the room quietly. "Princess," he said, "you seem troubled." Lyra didn't turn. "Earth changed me," she replied softly. Saren bowed his head. "We noticed," Lyra sighed. "Not in the way you fear. I am not harmed. I am not influenced by anything dangerous. I simply learned something." She paused, searching for simple words that matched her feelings. "Humans are not what we thought." Saren studied her carefully. "The guards reported that the human protected you." She nodded. "He did, and you protected him." "I had to," she said, voice soft but firm. "He deserved that." Saren hesitated. "The council fears what they do not understand." "So do humans," she said gently. And yet Elias acted with courage, not fear. Saren stepped closer, his tone turning thoughtful. "Princess, when you left, you went as a curious traveler, but you returned with the heart of someone who saw something valuable. Tell me honestly, do you wish to see the human again?" Lyra closed her eyes. Yes. The advisor did not want to oppose her, but he also knew the weight of political expectations. Then you must show the Council that your journey has value. That humans can be allies, not threats. Lyra turned to him, her eyes glowing with determination. I will. For the next several days, Lyra met with Council members, showing them every detail she observed on Earth: human kindness, human curiosity, human problem-solving. She did not hide the negative things she saw either. But she explained, carefully, gently, that one human had shown more heart than any stereotype they believed. Slowly, very slowly, the Council began to listen. Still, they were not ready to allow open contact with Earth. They were cautious. They were fearful. But they gave Lyra one thing: a chance to return. Under one condition, the Council leader said. You do not reveal your royal identity to humans. It could cause chaos for both worlds. Lyra nodded. I agree. But, the leader added, we will allow a temporary visit, a study mission. Nothing more. Lyra tried to hide her excitement. Thank you. The moment she was dismissed, she went straight to the docking bay, where her small shuttle had been repaired. She touched the metal hull gently, feeling her heart race. She wasn't going only to study Earth or report back. She was going to see Elias. Back on Earth, Elias sat outside the workshop one evening, watching the sky. He didn't know what he was expecting. Maybe a sign, maybe nothing. But he couldn't help looking at the stars every night. Something inside him held hope. Then he saw a light, a soft, blue glow cutting across the sky silently, unlike any plane or satellite. His breath caught. No way, he whispered. The light descended slowly, landing behind the workshop in the old empty field. Elias stood frozen for several seconds before finally gathering the courage to walk toward it. His heart beat fast. He didn't know if it was her. He didn't know if it was danger. He didn't know anything except that he couldn't ignore it. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss, and Lyra stepped out. She wasn't wearing the cloak. She wasn't wearing royal armor either. She wore something simple, soft fabric that shimmered slightly like starlight. Her markings glowed faintly, and her eyes reflected the light of Earth's moon. Elias stared, breathless. Lyra? She smiled, her eyes warming instantly. Elias. He took a step closer, then another, until they stood only a foot apart. You came back, he whispered. I promised I would, she replied softly. And I keep my promises. He let out a shaky breath. Are you okay? Your people, did they get mad? Did they punish? No, she interrupted gently. They listened. Not easily, but they listened. He relaxed slightly, though confusion still lingered. Why did they let you come back? Why? Her eyes softened as she looked at him. Because I told them Earth holds something important. Something I need to understand more. Elias felt heat rush to his face. And, does that something happen to be me? Lyra's smile widened softly, the glow in her eyes brighter. Yes. Elias didn't know what to say. No training, no life experience had prepared him for this moment. He just stood there, heart pounding, staring at the alien princess who had crossed stars just to see him. She took his hand slowly, her touch warm and gentle. You showed me kindness when I found none. You showed me courage when I felt fear. And you showed me humanity when my people believed humans had none. He swallowed hard. You don't owe me anything. I know, she whispered. That's why it matters. They stood in silence for a moment, letting the night air wash over them. Lyra finally looked up at the sky. I do not know what the future will be. My world is large, full of rules and expectations. Earth is unpredictable. But I know one thing. He looked at her, waiting. I want to spend time with you, she said. To learn, to understand, to grow, together. Elias felt a deep warmth in his chest, stronger than anything before. Then stay as long as you want. Her hand tightened around his. I will. They walked back to the workshop slowly, side by side. The door creaked softly as they stepped inside, and Lyra looked around with a nostalgic smile. It feels the same, she said. Yeah, Elias said with a small laugh. Nothing much changes here. She touched his arm gently. something changed. He looked at her, confused. "What?" "You," she said softly. "And me." Elias felt his heart beat faster. He didn't know what the universe had planned for them. He didn't know if her people would allow her to stay long, or if the council would someday call her back. But he knew something with absolute certainty. He wasn't alone anymore, and neither was she. As the night deepened, they stood close, watching the stars through the workshop window. Lyra rested her head lightly against his shoulder, and Elias placed his hand gently over hers. A princess who once found no kindness, a human who offered it without thinking. Two worlds that feared each other, connected by a single moment of compassion. And as they stood together beneath the endless sky, one truth echoed silently through both their hearts. HFY, because humanity, even in its simplicity, had the power to change a princess's entire world.